Chapter 127 to 129. In the next second, Quitella's body was instantly swallowed by the destructive energy. After provoking Goten, Quitella didn't even get to say a single last word. He was directly obliterated by the powerful destructive energy, leaving nothing behind. There was a price to be paid for threats and provocations. This must be known to all of them today. Otherwise, such troubles would continue to come to him in the future. Everyone looked in shock and solemnity at the spot where Quitella had been. He had been completely wiped out. "Are you kidding? That mortal bastard actually killed Quitella." He actually dared to kill a god of destruction. Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Quitella is a real god. How can a mere mortal have the courage to kill a god? At this moment, everyone stopped fighting. Belmod and Rumshi's expressions became very ugly. Horror, solemnity, and fear alternated constantly on their faces. The reason they dared to trouble Goten was that they believed he was just a mortal without a background. They also firmly believed that a mere mortal, no matter how powerful, would never dare to kill a god of destruction. But now it seemed they were completely wrong. This guy not only dared to kill a god of destruction, but also showed no mercy, instantly killed him without any remorse. In this case, the two of them were also in danger. Because their strength was not greater than Quitella's, this guy could kill them too. More importantly, this guy had no fear at all. There was no hesitation in killing a god. An expression of fear instantly emerged from their eyes, mixed with regret. Before, they always thought that Goten didn't dare to kill a god of destruction. That was why they acted so recklessly. They always wanted to teach Goten a good lesson and show him what it meant to humiliate a god of destruction. But now, this ending was completely different from what they imagined. Out of fear, the two immediately turned their attention to Murno. It seemed that Murno was their only hope of survival. However, after Murno saw that a god of destruction was killed, he didn't show the slightest expression of surprise on his face. He even seemed very excited. It was as if this was exactly what he wanted. "What? What's going on? That guy's expression shows no intention of saving us at all. Why? Why is this happening?" It was clearly agreed before that we would never get hurt with him. Belmod and Rumshi felt foolish. Even a fool could realize that they were duped by Murno. The guy who brought them to the seventh universe had no intention of helping them get revenge on Goten. It was more like a setup to push them to their deaths. But now, it seemed that everything was too late. Although they were gods of destruction, they didn't have the fastest speed in the universe, and they didn't have the Supreme Kai's instant movement technique. It was obviously impossible to leave this place, and Goten certainly wouldn't give them that chance. Oh no, Quitella was actually killed. Seeing that Quitella had completely disappeared, Beerus's face became serious in an instant. He lost his composure earlier, but he was fully aware now. A god of destruction was killed by a mortal. This was something Zeno and the Grand Priest would never allow. No matter how much they liked Goten, this matter had become very serious. "Oh no! A god of destruction was killed! It seems the situation has become very bad." Even Whis frowned. As an angel, he knew exactly what would happen if a god of destruction were killed. If he was killed by another god, perhaps Zeno and the Grand Priest would not care as much. And as long as it didn't get discovered, it was fine. But a mortal killing a god obviously challenged the authority of the gods. This was something Zeno and the Grand Priest would never tolerate. And because of Murno's appearance, this matter had become even worse. Even if Zeno and the Grand Priest couldn't find out that the fourth universe god of destruction was killed immediately, they could definitely find out about Murno showing up. When they tracked down what happened, things would be discovered, and Goten would definitely be punished extremely severely. Whis then looked up at Murno. He saw a satisfied smile on his face. It seemed that this entire situation was orchestrated by him. Whis felt that he didn't know his favorite big brother anymore. Murno used to like mortals so much, but now, why had he changed so much, letting Goten kill the god of destruction of the fourth universe? Didn't he know that this would result in disastrous consequences for the mortals? Big brother Murno, what is your purpose in doing this? Do you know that your actions just now not only resulted in the death of a god of destruction, but will also get Goten severely punished and possible repercussions for the Universe 7? Haven't you always liked mortals very much? Why do this now? Seeing Murno with a happy smile on his face, Whis immediately asked loudly, "Whis, whatever I do, I naturally have my plan. It looks like hundreds of millions of years have passed, but you still haven't changed at all." Murno still had a warm smile on his face as he spoke to Whis. To Murno, it seemed that his younger brother was still as naive as ever, just like their father, the Grand Priest. The Grand Priest always liked to protect Zeno, always liked to cater to his every need. But such an approach would not help these powerless mortals at all. Because whenever Zeno wanted to destroy a universe, it was purely on a whim. A good mood or a bad mood might cause hundreds of millions of beings in a universe to be wiped out. In Murno's opinion, the Grand Priest and all the angels had become accomplices. If this selfish system was not broken, mortals would never be treated fairly. In the eyes of God, mortals would always be like bugs. Poor mortals. They are always so small and cannot protect themselves. He liked mortals, so he hated the current system. But big brother, what you're doing now has seriously violated angels' rules. If this continues, you will be destroyed by Father and Zeno, Whis said in a very serious tone. He had finally seen Murno again. Since childhood, he had liked his big brother the most. He didn't expect that after meeting again, it would be like this. He seemed to be on the opposite side of all angels, and it seemed that he didn't like mortals as much as before. Could it be that these billions of years of disappearance had caused such a huge change in him? "No, they can't kill me now," Murno said confidently. But Goten on the side didn't want to hear their babbling anymore. Hearing Whis say his name, it seemed that the guy in front of him was indeed an angel and older than Whis. But Goten had already said it before. This guy dared to threaten him with Videl, and he would never tolerate such things. No matter what, Murno would have to pay a painful price today. Whoosh! After dealing with Kitela, Goten's body slammed into Murno again. Then he punched heavily. Murno instantly cast a portal. Goten's fist flew away, and Murno's body had already appeared in an empty place. "Goten, I admit that you are stronger than I thought, and you have successfully aroused my desire to fight. Next, I will use all my strength to fight with you, and I hope you will not let me down," Murno said, still with a look of excitement on his face. Looking at Goten, there was a bit of appreciation, but soon his expression became serious. The moment he punched out, more than a dozen portals appeared in front of him. Then countless bodies of Murno appeared. Moreover, the strength of each Murno was completely indistinguishable from that of the main body. What? What kind of ability is this? The strength of each avatar is exactly the same as the main body. When did angels have this ability? Beerus looked at the dozen or so Murnos in amazement and frowned tightly. The Murno in front of him was estimated to be able to defeat him in an instant, and now there were more than a dozen of them at once. It was estimated that even Goten had no way to deal with it. Okay, that's amazing. Is this an angel's ability? A dozen clones were created in an instant. This ability seems similar to Tien Shin Han's multiform technique, Goku said in surprise, looking at the dozen or so Murnos in front of him. In fact, Tien Shin Han had mastered this ability before. It's just that Tien Shin Han could only create 4 clones. And after creating the clones, their power was completely inferior to the main body. Moreover, the physical energy of the main body would also be greatly consumed. Stop kidding, Kakarot. This ability is completely different from the multiform technique. Don't you feel that the strength of each clone of this guy is exactly the same as the main body? It looks like Goten is going to be in a bit of danger, Vegeta immediately said to Goku. Tien Shinhan's ability was completely incomparable to the Murno in front of them. This guy created a dozen clones at once. Moreover, the strength of each clone was exactly the same as the main body. Goten seemed to be in danger. Can you only play tricks like this? Don't think you can defeat me like this. It's still far away. Goten sneered immediately. Although all the avatars and the body strength of Murno were similar, Goten could also do it. Especially after mastering the abilities of Janemba and Majin Buu, such a trick was easy for him. The moment Goten's voice fell, more than a dozen portals appeared around his body. Immediately afterwards, one Goten after another emerged from the portals. The strength of each Goten was almost the same. What? Goten! Can he actually have this ability? And the strength has not diminished in the slightest. What the hell is going on here? Why didn't I see him display it during the Tournament of Power? Vegeta felt his worldview collapse upon seeing a dozen Super Saiyan of full Goten. It was fine for angels to have such abilities. After all, angels were unimaginable existences. But now even Goten had this ability, which shocked him greatly, because Goten was just a Saiyan, and as far as he was concerned, Saiyans didn't have such strange abilities. How many abilities does Goten have? Goku murmured to himself in confusion as he looked at Goten. He felt that he couldn't understand his son at all. It was as if they existed in entirely different dimensions. While everyone was amazed, the dozen Murnos and the dozen Gotens engaged in a pitched battle. One portal after another opened continuously in the sky. Rumble! Accompanied by fierce battles, the entire planet began to fall apart instantly. The surrounding planets were also affected and began to be destroyed continuously. Shock waves of terror spread through the universe, making it seem like the entire universe could disappear at any moment. In just 10 seconds, hundreds of planets had been destroyed by the shock waves generated by the explosions. Damn! If these two guys keep fighting, the 7th universe will be destroyed sooner or later. But with my current strength, I can't stop them at all. Beerus clenched his fists. Since becoming the 7th universe god of destruction, it was the first time he felt so helpless. He couldn't even protect his own universe or Goten. This feeling of helplessness made him very angry. Boom! At this moment, Goten punched out straight through the chest of a Murno clone. The moment the chest was pierced, Murno disappeared. Goten then noticed that after killing the first Murno, a small petal appeared on the back of Murno's hand. He had spotted the petal on Murno's hand before, but with the clone being killed just now, the small petal on the back of Murno's hand turned into 2 pieces. Whoosh, whoosh! Rumble! The entire universe was still in violent turmoil. The battle was becoming more and more intense. Accompanied by the continuous increase in combat time, a dozen Murnos and Goten clones had disappeared. On the back of Murno's hand, more than a dozen petals had appeared, forming a sunflower-like flower. Only now, the petals took up half of the flower. Goten could also feel that the strength of Murno's body was constantly increasing. The battle continued for another 3 or 4 minutes. All parts of Goten and Murno clones had completely disappeared. At this time, the small flower pattern on the back of Murno's hand was only 3 leaves away from being fully formed. Goten, what an exciting battle. I never thought that one day I would be able to have such a carefree battle with a mortal. You make me admire you from the bottom of my heart. Even the former fighters of our 13th universe were not even 1% as good as you, Murno said sincerely, appreciating the battle. It seemed that choosing Goten as the protagonist this time was the most correct choice. At this time in the Temple of Xeno, just a few seconds ago, Angel Cognac of the 4th universe suddenly lost all his angel abilities. Everyone in the Temple of Xeno was aware of the reason. The god of destruction bound to the universe had died, so the angel lost all his abilities. Grand Priest frowned. On the other hand, angels Margarita and Kusu's faces were even uglier. The reason they appeared in the temple of Zeno was that Myrno had taken away their god of destruction just now. So they hurriedly reported the matter to the Grand Priest. Unexpectedly, at this time, Quitella of the Fourth Universe had already been killed. "Myrno, you've gone too far this time." Such behavior that completely violates the rules of angels. This makes it difficult for me to protect you. The Grand Priest frowned slightly and said in a low tone. Hundreds of millions of years had passed, but Myrno had not changed at all. The last thing an angel should have were feelings and emotions. Always remaining neutral was the core duty of an angel and the basic principle they should follow. Most of the angels adhered to this well, except for Myrno, his former favorite son, once identified as his own successor. Myrno had violated the rules of the angels. "You two come with me and let Cognac stay here," the Grand Priest said, taking a look at Zeno, who was taking a nap, before leaving the temple of Zeno with the two angels. Despite suffering numerous injuries, Myrno seemed to enjoy the fight immensely. Watching Goten grow stronger little by little in battle made him even happier. "This guy, what's his plan?" Goten wondered. "It's impossible for him to win against me in this battle, so why is he still laughing? After fighting for so long, I have never felt any killing intent or evil aura from him." After more than 10 minutes of fighting, Goten's confusion deepened. He initially thought Myrno was an evil angel who had come to the Seventh Universe to cause trouble or help other destroyers vent their anger. But now he completely doubted that idea. Myrno had let him kill Quitella and hadn't fought with all his strength, more like he was training him. Even after such a long fight, Goten couldn't sense any malicious intent from Myrno, nor did Myrno intend to kill him. So what was his purpose? Boom! At that moment, they exchanged another heavy punch, hitting each other's chest heavily. Simultaneously, they both retreated a considerable distance. Belmod and Rumshi were completely freaked out. The intensity of this battle surpassed their imagination. They now knew that Goten could destroy them in an instant and that Myrno would never intervene to stop him. So they trembled with fear, not daring to act rashly, afraid they might end up like Quitella. Swish! After retreating 1,000 feet, Goten stabilized his body by releasing his breath. He then flashed forward, appearing in front of Myrno again. "What is your purpose?" Goten asked. "During the battle with you, I didn't feel your killing intent. Why are you looking for me?" He was puzzled by this question. "It's so awesome, Goten. You are the most powerful mortal I have ever seen. You're also the mortal most likely to change all of this. It is my honor to meet a mortal like you after billions of years," Myrno replied, though his answer was irrelevant. His excited and respectful expression showed he wasn't lying. "Damn, I don't understand what you're talking about. But you bastard, you dared to use Videl to threaten me before. That is absolutely unforgivable." Seeing the excited and enthusiastic Myrno, Goten's expression changed. He attacked again. Myrno responded quickly, knowing that the longer he fought Goten, the stronger Goten would become. This was what he most hoped to see. Boom! 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 As the two continued to fight, the entire universe began to crumble. Both Whis and Beerus had solemn expressions on their faces. They couldn't stop this fight, but if it continued, the Seventh Universe would be destroyed. Everyone might die here. "Whis, what now? Can you stop them both?" Beerus asked Whis urgently. "Stop joking, Lord Beerus," Whis responded, rolling his eyes. "Whether it's Big Brother Myrno or Goten, the power they possess now far surpasses mine. Even if I used my divine power, it wouldn't be enough to stop their battle. Moreover, I can't use my divine power at all to fight," Whis explained helplessly. Among all the angels, the strongest was their big brother Myrno. This kind of battle was simply beyond Whis's ability to stop. Even if all 12 angels were here, they probably wouldn't be able to halt this fight. The only one who might be able to stop them was their father, the Grand Priest. Meanwhile, Goten and Myrno were fighting at full strength. Surrounding Goten was a raging grass-green aura flame that formed a massive beam of light, as if it could pierce the entire universe. Myrno, on the opposite side, wasn't far behind. A brilliant Kai surrounded his body as he prepared to launch his final attack. "Ha!" Goten roared, then punched directly at Myrno. With this punch, he was 70% certain he could defeat Myrno. Yet, Myrno appeared completely relaxed, showing no fear of being defeated or even killed by Goten. The power gathered by the two was incredibly strong. The collision of this punch might not only annihilate the entire seventh universe in an instant, but also impact the surrounding universes. Beerus and others looked extremely nervous. They knew how serious the consequences would be if this punch landed. However, they also knew Goten and Myrno very well. Even after this punch collided, the seventh universe wouldn't disappear because both of them had mastered the ability to manipulate space. This ability would allow them to release all the energy into separate dimensions of time and space after the full collision. As the distance between their fists narrowed to just 2 meters, Beerus and the others closed their eyes, bracing for the worst. Suddenly, a figure appeared between Goten and Myrno, stretching out his hands. Whop! In the next second, he effortlessly blocked the fists of both Goten and Myrno. "You two, please restrain yourselves. Don't you realize that the attack just now would have destroyed the entire seventh universe?" A calm and indifferent voice sounded. Goten and Myrno frowned almost simultaneously upon seeing the person in front of them. It was the Grand Priest who had just arrived. "Lord Grand Priest, we are saved!" Beerus exclaimed with joy. Just moments ago, he had thought he was going to die for sure. The Grand Priest's timely arrival meant that the seventh universe was saved. The seriousness on Goku and Vegeta's faces disappeared instantly. Only Whis remained solemn. He knew that while the Grand Priest's appearance could save the seventh universe, it also meant something much bigger was coming. "Goten, Big Brother Myrno," Whis murmured. The battle had resulted in the fall of a god of destruction and nearly destroyed a universe. As the Grand Priest, he would definitely punish Goten and Myrno accordingly. So good! Lord Grand Priest, we're saved!" Belmod and Rumshi were the happiest. Moments ago, they had been certain of their deaths. Even if they survived the destruction of the universe, Goten would surely have killed them. Now, with the Grand Priest's arrival, they might not have to die. They might face some punishment, but it was better than being killed. "Grand Priest!" Goten's face sank instantly, looking troubled. "Old man, I didn't expect you to come so fast," Myrno said with a playful expression, addressing the Grand Priest without the respect other angels showed. He did not call him Lord Grand Priest, but instead called him an old man. "Myrno, Goten, do you realize what you were doing just now?" The Grand Priest's voice was extremely indifferent as he looked at them with serious eyes. "If I hadn't arrived in time, the entire seventh universe would have been destroyed by you. Even other universes would have been affected. Hundreds of millions of creatures would have died at your hands. Have you thought about the consequences?" As he spoke, the Grand Priest was also surprised by Goten's strength. Only half a month had passed since the Tournament of Power, and Goten's strength had grown so much. Facing Myrno, he was able to fight to this extent. Myrno was his most promising son and the most powerful existence among all angels, a candidate for the position of Grand Priest. "Hey, is this the sun coming out from the west? It's really rare," Myrno mocked. "My Lord Grand Priest, who lives high in the clouds, actually started to sympathize with ordinary creatures who are like ants in your eyes. What? It's so strange that you didn't wipe that little boy's ass behind his back today." TN. Myrno's grotesque mockery continued. Because of this matter, he had countless disputes with the Grand Priest, all ending unpleasantly. "Damn, Damn you, old man. This holier-than-thou attitude is really disgusting. You can annihilate several universes in an instant with just a few words. At that time, you didn't think about the hundreds of millions of lives, and now you stand on the moral high ground to criticize us. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Murnau's expression instantly became ferocious. At this moment, he didn't look like an angel at all. He lacked the gentle and peaceful aura of other angels, resembling more a mortal filled with anger over unfair treatment. The Grand Priest frowned slightly after hearing Murnau's words. It seemed that even after hundreds of millions of years, Murnau had not changed his foolish thinking at all. As an angel, he should do what an angel should do. Even he, the Grand Priest, had no right to interfere with any decisions Zeno made. He couldn't fathom where Murnau got these pedantic and foolish ideas. However, the Grand Priest still spoke in a calm tone. Lord Zeno is the supreme god of all universes and the supreme existence in this universe. The erasure of other universes is Lord Zeno's right. The reason Lord Zeno does this is to make the entire dimensional universe better and more balanced. The Grand Priest's explanation made Murnau even angrier. Even Goten beside him frowned. This statement blatantly implied that only state officials are allowed to set fires, while common people are not allowed to light lamps. Although in this world, where power was paramount, Goten agreed with what the Grand Priest said because it was a fact. But the truth, stated so bluntly, always made people uncomfortable, especially since he was currently an ant that could be easily exterminated in the eyes of the Grand Priest and Zeno. Ha ha ha, what a pedantic and overbearing rule. You really make excuses for him. The same actions are considered pure good when you do them, but evil when we do them. Your attitude hasn't changed at all in hundreds of millions of years. Murnau laughed angrily. The same actions were deemed good for them, but evil for mortal beings. At this time, Whis and Beerus's faces became more and more worried. Every word Murnau spoke seemed to constantly strike a nerve. Anyone else wouldn't dare to confront the Grand Priest. But Murnau was different. He was the Grand Priest's most beloved and promising son. When these words came from Murnau, they carried a different weight. The Grand Priest didn't want to discuss this topic further. Murnau had been eloquent since he was a child, always spouting such fallacies. It seemed he still did not want to repent. If that was the case, letting him continue to speak might be disastrous. Murnau, Goten, the battle you two fought just now not only caused the fall of a god of destruction, but also almost led to the destruction of a universe. This is a grave offense. You must follow me to accept Lord Zeno's punishment, the Grand Priest said sternly. Especially Goten, a mortal who killed a god of destruction. This was unacceptable. Mortals who kill gods must be punished. After hearing the Grand Priest's words, everyone's faces became very grim. Grand Priest, this matter has nothing to do with me. They provoked me first. I was just traveling on this planet when they suddenly came here to fight me. I had no choice but to fight back. As for God of Destruction Quitella from the fourth universe, that was just an accident, Goten immediately explained, feeling truly wronged. His pleasant trip had been interrupted by these guys, and they had even threatened him with Videl. Under such circumstances, he had no choice but to fight back. Goten is absolutely right, Grand Priest. This matter really has nothing to do with him. If anyone is to be held accountable for Quitella's death, I am most responsible. So if you want to punish someone, please punish me. Beerus stepped forward, suppressing his fear of the Grand Priest, and spoke earnestly. At this moment, he had to stand up because, in this incident, Goten was originally a victim. He already regarded Goten as his best friend. He could not let Goten face danger alone. Goten had saved him twice before. This time, he had to come forward no matter what. God of Destruction of the seventh universe, you should be thankful that I arrived just in time. So the seventh universe wasn't destroyed by... If the seventh universe is destroyed, you, the God of Destruction, cannot escape the responsibility, Grand Priest said, glancing at Beerus. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. The Grand Priest at this moment was obviously different from his usual gentle and cheerful self. Perhaps what Murnau said struck a nerve. Seeing the sharp gaze, Beerus shrank his neck in fright. The fear of the Grand Priest from the depths of his soul was something he could not overcome. This fear had lasted for hundreds of millions of years, deeply rooted in him. His determination quickly disintegrated in the face of this fear. "Lord Grand Priest, Goten is my son. If you want to punish someone, punish me. I am willing to take the punishment in his place." Goku stepped forward immediately, speaking seriously to the Grand Priest. Since Goten was born, he had never given fatherly love or done him any favors. As a father, he must stand up now. "Goku, there's no denying your fantastic performance at the Tournament of Power, but don't think you can bargain with a god." Grand Priest glanced at Goku, his tone still indifferent. Although the mortals in the 7th universe were impressive, their strength was not enough to bargain in front of a god. This battle between Goten and Murno had already caused the fall of a god of destruction. According to the rules of the gods, there must be punishment. As for the punishment, it had to wait until Zeno woke up to decide. "The god of destruction of the 10th universe and the 11th universe, you have come to the 7th universe to provoke battles without permission, which is a violation of God's rules. So you will also accept the corresponding punishment." After the Grand Priest's icy voice fell, he waved his hand, and the bodies of these people disappeared from the 7th universe in an instant. Their Kai couldn't be sensed at all. Goten didn't even know what was going on. When he appeared again, he was in a space of nothingness. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, similar to the hyperbolic time chamber. Moreover, the gravity seemed to be 100 times that of Earth. The god of destruction of the 10th and 11th universes had long since disappeared. Only Goten, Grand Priest, and Murno were in this space. "Lord Grand Priest, what exactly is this place? How do you plan to punish us?" Goten asked with a frown, his tone heavy. He was fully aware of the seriousness of the matter. Although his strength had improved qualitatively in the battle with Murno, he was not strong enough to fight against the Grand Priest. He felt he might be killed in an instant. The most powerful god in the universe was no joke. This is the Void Realm, a place where powerful gods who have committed serious crimes are detained, Murno said with a smile. Despite being brought here, there was no trace of panic on his face. On the contrary, he seemed extremely at ease, as if he had no fear of being held here by the Grand Priest. "Murno is right. This is indeed the Void Realm, similar to the Null Realm where the Tournament of Power was held. This place has no concept of space, but time flows much faster here than outside. You two will stay here. After Lord Zeno wakes up, he will punish you according to your mistakes," Grand Priest explained lightly. "Generally, gods who committed serious crimes would be imprisoned here. This place was a different dimensional space with no boundaries. Moreover, time flowed very fast here. If one lived here for hundreds of years, it would only take a small amount of time outside. Therefore, this place was feared by all gods. No god wanted to be locked up here because they would be swallowed by endless boredom and loneliness. A god of destruction and an angel might be able to stay in the god of destruction realm for hundreds of millions of years, but here, they wouldn't last for hundreds of years. This kind of punishment was as straightforward as waiting to die." "It looks like this place is very similar to the hyperbolic time chamber," Goten thought. Fortunately, he had stayed in the hyperbolic time chamber for several years, so boredom and loneliness were barely acceptable to him. "Grand Priest, your approach is too overbearing. What's my fault in this matter? The battle was instigated by your son Murno and the 3 gods of destruction. I just wanted to protect my loved ones from harm." "What's wrong with that? You let them go, but want to imprison me in this forsaken place. I am not convinced by such a punishment," Goten said seriously, looking at the Grand Priest. He was forced into this situation. The god of destruction he killed was to protect Earth and his loved ones. He couldn't accept being punished the same way as Murno. "Goten, No matter what happened before, killing the fourth universe god of destruction is a fact. It is wrong to kill a god as a mortal being. If you want to object, you will have a chance when Lord Zeno wakes up. I am just responsible for keeping you in this place, the Grand Priest said seriously, without any hint of selfishness. His duty was to temporarily lock up Goten and Murno. As for what Zeno would decide, that was Zeno's business. The Grand Priest would not interfere with the final result. Okay, you two stay here until Lord Zeno wakes up. Everything will be resolved then. With that, the Grand Priest disappeared in front of them. As soon as he vanished, blue energy chains appeared under the feet of Goten and Murno, completely restraining them. What the hell? Goten instantly transformed into Super Saiyan 4, trying to break free from the energy chains, but even with all his strength, it was impossible. Even the power of destruction had no effect on the chains. Don't waste your efforts, Goten. These chains are so strong that even the Grand Priest would struggle to break free, let alone you. Just stay here. This might be a good training opportunity for you, Murno said, still looking relaxed with a slight smile. From the beginning, he had been calm and unworried. Shut up, you bloody bastard! If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be trapped in this place. Damn you! Goten yelled at Murno, raising his ki again. But no matter how much he increased his kai, he couldn't break free from the shackles. The chains didn't move and couldn't be destroyed. They were likely condensed with powerful divine laws, making it impossible to break free unless one had the same level of power. Don't be so short-tempered. I'm not joking with you. Your talent is ridiculously strong. Even without training, your strength increases day by day. The flow of time here is faster than in the time dimension on Earth, making this a good opportunity for you, Murno continued with a smile. As the most powerful angel, his mind-reading skills were excellent. He had obtained all the information about Goten by reading the memories of Goku and Vegeta. However, Goten was different. Murno couldn't read his mind at all, which gave him greater confidence in Goten. Maybe what no one else had done before, he could do. These bastards... Goten ignored Murno's words. Murno was also responsible for him being trapped here. If he ever got out, he would kill Murno without hesitation. These indiscriminate gods were unforgivable. Time passed day by day in the void. In a blink of an eye, several months had passed. Initially, Goten thought about how to break free from the chains and escape this place. But he slowly realized it was impossible. No matter how hard he tried, the chains couldn't be broken. His mood became more irritable as time went on. Although he had stayed in the hyperbolic time chamber for a long time before, at that time he was relatively free. He could take a good rest after training. But this dastardly place restrained him completely. If it wasn't for his immortality and Majin Buu's ability, he would probably have starved to death by now. Goten, you can just stay here. I think it's time for me to get out of here. Murno suddenly raised his head and said to Goten. In the past few months, he had never become irritable, not even for a moment. From beginning to end, he was extremely peaceful. After entering the Void Realm, Murno was more similar to other angels. His state of mind was extremely calm. Leave? Goten's expression suddenly froze. Could this guy really get out of this damn place? Why was he trapped for months and never mentioned he could leave? I have other things to do. But as I've been telling you, this is a very good opportunity for you. Although it's really boring and lonely here, it's quiet enough to think about your own strength and the abilities you've mastered before. Perhaps during this period you will undergo a qualitative change, and you will leave here safely, Murno said. As his voice fell, silver-white energy suddenly released from his body. Rumble! With the violent trembling of the entire Void Realm, Murno exploded directly. Immediately, the iron chains that bound him disappeared without a trace. This bastard, he actually blew himself up? Is that how he got out of this damn place? Are you kidding me? Goten's complexion worsened. Although he really hated Murno, That bastard, at least 2 people had been locked up here, so he hadn't felt too lonely. But now, he was the only one left. He didn't know how long he would be trapped in this gloomy place. Thinking of this, Goten became even more irritable. "Grand Priest, bloody bastard, hurry up and let me out of this place. Absolutely unforgivable, you bastards." His hysterical roar got no response. The entire space was dead silent, terrifyingly quiet. Time kept passing. In a blink of an eye, a year had passed, and Goten calmed down. No matter how much he struggled, roared, or vented, it wouldn't help. Slowly calming down, he finally remembered Murno's words. Trapped here made people feel lonely and bored as death, but it was indeed a good opportunity. He could train well. When Frieza was killed and bound in that silkworm cocoon, with angels and small animals beating drums every day, his situation was worse than Goten's. But Frieza carried out mental training in painful torture every day, which allowed him to achieve the golden Frieza form in a short period after leaving Hell. Thinking of this, Goten suddenly woke up. The Ultra Instinct, the Ultra Ego, the dimensional teleportation ability of Janemba, Majin Buu's restoration ability, and my legendary bloodline, Kale's legendary bloodline. Goten began to sort out the abilities he had gained and mastered over and over again. Slowly, he closed his eyes and began to meditate. Tien, he hasn't absorbed Kale's bloodline. It's still far off in the future. Meanwhile, in the outside world, only 15 minutes had passed. Beerus and Goku had returned to the God of Destruction realm. They must find a way to rescue Goten as soon as possible. "Whis, do you know where Goten was taken by the Grand Priest?" Beerus asked anxiously. They needed to get Goten out, even if it meant losing his position or life. Goku and Vegeta also looked anxious. "Lord Beerus, how could I know such a thing, and even if I knew where Goten was imprisoned, I could never tell you, because this is the decision of Lord Grand Priest, and as an angel, I would never go against his decision," Whis said lightly, clearly taking a stand. His first identity was an angel, and his second identity was the son of the Grand Priest. These 2 identities were enough for him not to betray the Grand Priest. Damn it, you bastard. Goten is also your apprentice, and Goten treats you well. How can you do this to him?" Beerus clenched his fists tightly, clearly dissatisfied with Whis's attitude. "I'm very sorry, Lord Beerus. I do like Goten, but I always know who I am. I am an angel, so I must follow the angel's rules," Whis said in a flat tone.